52% of projects satisfying every stakeholder request still fail. The problem isn't saying yes. It's a missing framework most managers never learn. I'll break it down. It was week 6 of a 12-week project. Priya's team had delivered every sprint on time. Then the client said 5 words that changed everything. Can we just add one thing? That one thing became 12 things. The deadline did not move. The budget did not grow. 3 months later, the project was cancelled. This is not a story about bad developers or weak leadership. This is a story about scope management, and by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to prevent this from ever happening to you. Most people think scope is just a list of features or deliverables. It is not. Scope is the boundary between what your project will do and what it will not do. Think of it like a fence around a property. Everything inside is your responsibility, everything outside is not. The Project Management Institute defines scope management as ensuring a project includes all the work required, and only the work required, to complete it successfully. That word "only" is doing all the heavy lifting in that definition. According to PMI's Pulse of the Profession report, 52% of projects experience scope creep. More than half of all projects. And the number one reason is painfully simple: the scope was never clearly defined in the first place. You cannot protect a boundary that does not exist. Here is what nobody tells you about scope creep: it does not start with a bad client or an unreasonable boss. It starts with a single yes. Someone asks for a small addition, and it sounds perfectly reasonable. You say yes because saying no feels risky or confrontational. Then another request arrives, and another one after that. Each one is small on its own, but together they become a second project hiding inside your first one. This is called the "just one more thing" trap, and it is the silent killer of timelines and budgets. The real root cause is not people being difficult or demanding too much. It is the absence of a documented, agreed-upon scope baseline that everyone has signed off on. Without a written agreement on what is included and what is excluded, every conversation becomes a negotiation. And in any negotiation, the person without documentation always loses. Every project lives inside a triangle with 3 sides: scope, time, and cost. Change one side, and the other 2 must adjust to compensate. This is called the triple constraint, and it is the most powerful negotiation tool a project manager has. When a stakeholder says "add this feature," your answer should never be a flat yes or no. It should be absolutely, and here is what changes as a result. Want to add a new reporting module? That adds 3 weeks to the timeline or requires 2 additional developers on the team. Want to keep the original deadline? Then we remove something of equal size from the current scope. This is not being difficult or blocking progress, this is being professional. The best project managers I have worked with do not fight change at all. They price it. They make every addition visible so that decision makers can choose informed trade-offs instead of making blind promises they cannot keep. So how do you actually define scope before the project begins? It starts with 3 critical documents. First, the project scope statement. This describes what the project will deliver, the acceptance criteria, and the key exclusions. Exclusions matter just as much as inclusions, so write down what the project will not do. Second, create a work breakdown structure, also known as a WBS. This breaks the entire project into smaller, manageable deliverables organized in a hierarchy. Think of it like a family tree for your project, where each branch splits into smaller branches until you reach work packages that can be estimated, assigned, and tracked individually. Third, and this is where most teams fail, get formal sign-off from all key stakeholders. A scope baseline means absolutely nothing without documented approval from the people who matter. This signed document becomes your single reference point for the entire project. Every future change request gets measured against this baseline. Netflix uses scope baselines even for internal content production. Every episode has a locked scope before cameras roll, and any change goes through formal review. Here is the truth most project managers learn too late in their careers: you cannot stop change requests from coming in, and honestly, you should not try. Change itself is not the enemy, unmanaged change is what destroys projects. The solution is a structured change control process that everyone follows consistently. When a new request arrives, it moves through 5 clear steps. First, log the request formally and in writing so nothing gets lost. Second, assess the impact on scope, timeline, budget, and quality in concrete terms. Third, present the trade-offs clearly to the decision maker with your recommendation. Fourth, get a documented approval or rejection before any work begins. Fifth, update the project plan and communicate the change to the entire team immediately. This entire process takes about 10 minutes per request. Skipping it costs 10 weeks of rework and confusion. Google's project management methodology requires every scope change above a defined threshold to go through a change control board. It is not bureaucracy slowing things down, it is protection keeping the project alive. Here is your action step, and I want you to do this before you close this video. Open your current project plan right now. Write down 3 things: what is included in your project scope, what is explicitly excluded from your project scope, and what process exists when someone requests a change. If you cannot answer all 3 of those clearly, you do not have scope management yet, you have hope. And hope is not a project management strategy. Send this video to your project team and your key stakeholders today. Make your scope visible to everyone. Make every change request formal and documented. Start protecting your project right now. Not next sprint. Not tomorrow. Today. That's a wrap, thanks for watching. If this gave you one idea you can use today, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.